Welcome to today's briefing. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out and spent time with me at Defense Tech Connect. I enjoyed meeting all of you, and I wish more of you could make it. But while we're out having fun conventioning, some drama was going down in the Red Sea. So much has gone down, we're going to go through this chronologically, all right? On November 23rd, 2023, USS Thomas Hudner is attached to USS Baton LHD-5 and Carter Hall. Both ships are full of Marine Corps, and Thomas Hudner is acting as escort here when they detect multiple attack drones flying out of Yemen. Thomas Hudner engages and destroys all the attack drones. There is no damage to American ships or U.S. vessels. It's not clear what the targets were, but since they were in the vicinity of the American warships took action to defend themselves and destroyed the drones. Everything was quiet for a couple days until December 3rd, when USS Carney had one of the busiest days ever in U.S. Navy history, this century for sure. There was heavy fighting on Sunday when multiple ballistic missiles and drones came out of Yemen in 4 waves of attacks against 3 commercial vessels that the Carney was involved with. Let's begin at 0915, local time in the Red Sea. Marine vessel Unity Explorer, large bulk carrier, is surprised when right off the side of the ship there is an explosion that misses the ship, explodes in the water, throwing water up into the air, and she gets on the bridge-to-bridge radio calling for distress that they're under missile attack from they don't know who. But USS Carney was observing the attack the entire time. The ballistic missile did come out of Yemen, probably Houthi controlled, and so U.S. Carney moves into position near the ship. Noon local time comes around when U.S. Carney detects a Houthi-controlled unmanned aerial vehicle and shoots it down. So we have ballistic missile attack, drone, and now they're waiting for the next shoe to drop, if you will. And that happens 30 minutes later when Unity Explorer comes under a second ballistic missile attack, second one in the same morning, but this missile does hit. And so they call away distress call again. They do have damage, but they've taken no civilian or crew casualties, thankfully, at this time. USS Carney positions closer to the Unity to render assistance to her. While rendering assistance to the Unity Explorer, another UAV is detected coming out of Yemen. And so the American destroyer shoots that down, and with that being done, there is no damage to either vessel, no casualties at this time. 3:30 comes around a few hours later, a little bit south of their position, but still in the Red Sea. A distress call comes from container ship number 9, saying that she has been struck by a ballistic missile. She has suffered damage, but there are no crew casualties at this time. And an hour later at 4:30, Sophie 2 calls a distress, saying that she has been struck by a missile. There are no crew casualties, but damage topside to the ship. U.S. Carney responds and closes range to render assistance to the new casualties. While en route, another unmanned aerial vehicle approaches USS Carney. Carney shoots it down as well. These tanker attacks are escalating, folks. It started off with one tanker being seized, brought into port, held hostage for ransom, and there were no consequences for that. So, of course, what does a bully do when he sees his actions go unpunished? Well, he does it again, and he does it more often, and now they're escalating the attacks to the point to where they're not bothering taking hostages anymore. They're simply attacking civilian shipping in the Red Sea as they go past Yemen. These attacks are coming out of the Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. And my question really is who's insuring these ships? Is it Lloyd's of London or someone else? Because they're going to get a big bill whenever the repairs come due for these ships. And I suspect that some shipping insurance will either be suspended or these ships will be redirected so they don't travel through the Suez Canal anymore and into the Red Sea. They'll just have to go the long way around if they're allowed to go at all. But some insurance is going to be claimed upon quickly, and that could escalate into a shipping crisis if it gets out of control. That's a topic for Sal Margarliano to talk about. We'll let him do that. But my question to you is, how does the world respond to a country like Yemen who's attacking civilian ships as they pass by the coastline, but not declaring war on anybody, just attacking civilian ships as if it's a crime and not an act of war, but it's a war crime is what it is. So Of the 3 ships that were attacked, if you take the flagged country they're out of, the port they operate out of, ports plural, and the crew members that are on board, if you add all those together, that's 14 different nations. Which one of those are the Houthis mad at? Of course, they're saying Israel, but it's a lot more than just Israel on board these ships in terms of crew, flagged ownerships, and insurance, of course. So these attacks are really out of hand, and they got in this way because we allowed it to. You know, the USS Carney is exercising great precision and performance in their military capability, but they're also exercising great restraint because the Carney, as well as the Thomas Hunter, has the capability to go ashore and destroy the launch facilities or the launch locations. I don't even want to call it a facility because it's a place in the desert where these missile attacks are coming from. And they haven't been allowed to do that. So they've shown great restraint, probably because of the rules of engagement just don't allow them to do that. And they're following the rules of engagement. So a big salute to the officers and crew of USS Carney. They're showing great exceptionalism right now, and I absolutely love that. When they return to home port, which is Naval Station Mayport, Florida, they should be given a hero's welcome. You know, the Navy band should be on the pier playing them in as they tie up. And there should be an award ceremony for the captain and crew right on the pier from the squadron commander the moment they arrive, because they've done outstanding work. Outstanding. I just wish the executive branch would unleash our Navy to at least punish and stop these Houthi drone attacks. That would be the next step. Let's see if that actually happens. I don't know. They don't put me in charge of anything around here. Look, I have a microphone. All right, let's go to the Arabian Sea right next door, just a couple miles, where Digital Talon 2.0 is going on. We completely missed Digital Talon 1.0 because these exercises are going on back to back. 1.0 was October, 2.0 was in November, and these are conducted by Task Force 59. Now, Task Force 59, relatively new task force compared to like 5th Fleet, 7th Fleet, been around forever. Task Force 59 is the U.S. Navy's first unmanned and artificial intelligence task force. Their mission statement is to demonstrate the ability of manned and unmanned vessels working together in a combat environment. And this is going to be a live fire test of that kind of working together. So the participants, you can see them all here, are the USS Indianapolis, a Freedom Class LCS. They're commander in charge of the flotilla, if you will. There are 2 unmanned Devil Ray class surface vessels, 1 Arabian Fox USV, and a flex rotor UAV that the Indianapolis will launch from its helo deck during the exercise. All right, so let's go ahead and watch the video of this exercise in action. That's the UAV being launched. They now data link all the unmanned vehicles with the LCS and shore facilities. A small test target is deployed. The Arabian Fox you see here is maneuvering into position, visually confirms the target, sends this target data to the T-38 Devil Ray and the LCS. LCS, being commander in charge, gives the Devil Ray permission to engage. This is an unmanned vehicle, autonomous drone vehicle, well, remotely controlled. The Devil Ray maneuvers to launch the Switchblade drone munitions that you see here that are mounted in the back. The Switchblade drone has onboard video, so as it conducts its flight, its one-way flight to the target, it can show this video back to the shore facility and the LCS. And there we have a successful engagement of the test target. This is another successful test of unmanned vehicles operating with our LCS ships. We've completed at least 2 of these in the Pacific, and now this one here in the Arabian Sea. So congratulations to everyone involved. This is definitely a big teamwork effort. And this right here, folks, this is the future of naval warfare from the American perspective. Manned ships with unmanned support vessels around it. We're employing this now in the Pacific Fleet. This is being deployed with our fleet in a non-test environment right now. It happened this year. So this is already being used, and we're just getting better at it with tests like this. So well done to everyone. Also in the same body of water, but not associated with the test directly, is the Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group. They had an unwelcome visitor that you can see here on December 3rd. This UAV flew out of Yemen, of all places, imagine that, and flew right towards the Carrier Strike Group. And we watched it happen the whole time. But there is important information to be observed by allowing this UAV to get as close as you see it here. There's the carrier. There's the unwelcome UAV. You can see it's right over top of the carrier strike group. Essentially, it's being monitored by everybody, and it is eventually destroyed, but not before we collected a lot of intel data about its capability. And so the UAV did not survive the flight, and we got what we needed out of it. Just be aware that this stuff is happening not just in the Red Sea. These UAVs are flying over the Arabian Sea as well, apparently looking for targets that then the Houthis will engage. All right, let's head over to the South China Sea, see what China's doing over here. The Second Thomas Shoal, you guys remember that. Second Thomas Shoal is this little red star right here, and I brought this map up specifically to give context and perspective to what we're talking about when we talk about Second Thomas Shoal. These are the Philippine Islands. Second Thomas Shoal is part of the Philippine Islands. They actually have Marines on board Second Thomas Shoal. The light blue area that you see right here, this is for the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. They have legal rights and authority to all resources like fish and oil and whatnot, and shoals and atolls like this inside this blue shadowed area. That is the legally recognized boundary for the Philippines. And you can see Second Thomas Shoal is not on the edge. It's well within their EEZ. It's essentially and legally Philippine property, 100 miles off the coast of the Philippine Islands. So what's happening over there right now? Well, USS Gabriel Giffords is operating near Second Thomas Shoal. Not doing anything special, no exercise, no missile test, just sailing around, having a good old time in international waters like she's perfectly allowed to do. Even in an exclusive economic zone, any nation can do peaceful, safe passage through EEZs. That's a standard. But wouldn't you know it? Somebody has protesting the USS Gabriel Giffords in this area. Now, who do you think it is? Now, if we look at this map, I mean, you might think, wow, it might be the Philippines. We thought we were friends, but maybe they're protesting. No, it's China. China looking out for the Philippines, maybe. China's statement on this transit through the area was the U.S. warship, this one right here, seriously violated China's sovereignty and security. They're so sensitive over there in China. These actions, continuing the quote, demonstrate the U.S. is the biggest threat to peace and stability in the region. Because we sailed a little bit close to the Second Thomas Shoal, of which we have really good relations with the Philippines. And they have no problem with us being there, but apparently China's has a problem with us being here. Now, it really goes deeper than that. Obviously, China is still trying to claim the South China Sea, even though they have no legal claim. They got slapped down in court in 2016. I don't need to rehash that. But they still want to make these claims to territories that are far away from their own shores. So what is going on in China? There's been some recent news out of China that you may not know about. I follow a lot of financial periodicals like Bloomberg, Financial Times, and Wall Street Journal, and they all agree on some things that I found interesting. One, China is going through a period of strife right now. Now, that might be the understatement of the century, but they're going through what I believe is an existential crisis. And when I say existential, I mean leading to extinction. The Chinese government that we have now, today, as of this recording, is going to be stronger today than it is tomorrow, and it will continue to get weaker and more unstable as time goes on. And I don't see any path away from that. And unfortunately, I don't believe China sees any path away from that as well, which limits their abilities to do anything about it. So one thing China did do about their weakening economy, that's what we're focusing on here, is that they stopped reporting economic numbers this year. Yeah, the last report that we got, I believe, was over the summer, and it said that the unemployment rate of 18 to 25-year-olds, which is the emerging workforce, is over 21% of that demographic do not have jobs, earning no income. And China has the most rapidly aging population in the region, maybe in the world, but definitely in the region. So the old people are retiring. There is a gap called the one-child policy where there's like no people, very few people. And those are the 30 to 50-year-olds, right? 20 years of that policy. And then you have the new coming generation, but they don't have jobs. They've graduated college and now they're trying to get into the workforce, and they're not getting the jobs that they thought that they were going to get. So They're staying unemployed for now. So this has caused a ripple effect in the economy to compound all the real estate problems they have. We won't even go into that. But right now, 88.5 million Chinese have defaulted on their credit loans. That's mortgage payments, that's credit card loans, that's the WePay from your phone, mobile payments. They've stopped making the minimum payment. 8.5 million people. That is huge. And what happens in China when you don't pay your credit card bill or you don't pay your mortgage bill, you get put on what's called a blacklist. And that sounds really bad. And it kind of is, but they don't come and they don't disappear you yet. What the Chinese government does do is prevent your ability. If you're defaulting on your credit card bill, you cannot buy an airplane ticket. You can't leave the country. You can't do mobile pay, which is really detrimental because that is a convenience service that keeps spending going, which helps keep the economy going. Well, if you can't conveniently spend your money, then you can't support the economy as much as you were doing. And so limiting 8.5 million people's ability to conveniently pay for services and goods is limiting the amount of growth the economy could be seeing. And the big number that blew me away is that the average personal debt in China right now is 64% of net worth. To break that down into simple numbers is if a family has $100,000 worth of assets, be it a car, their personal belongings, and maybe a mortgage, 64,000 of that 100,000 is debt. So they're not even breaking even. They're at $64,000 in debt and only have $100,000 worth of assets. That is a horrible ratio, and you cannot sustain your economy on that until you flip that ratio around. They need to begin earning more money and spending a hell of a lot less while earning more money. That's difficult to do on a grand scale of a single economy. So what this is causing, to get to the point, is desperation. These young people are becoming disenfranchised, angry. A lot are becoming aloof. They're doing what's called laying down, which means not trying, which I can't even imagine. But it's really all a symptom of desperation. And that's the word that I want you to hold on to, because desperation can lead down a path to radicalization because they feel as if they have nowhere else to go but to just do something radical to change their conditions. And that is what I believe is going to happen. China in the coming years, and I don't want to put a date on it, is just going to become more and more desperate till eventually they get to a point to where they have to make a change. They have to do something. They're not going to fade quietly into the darkness. They're going to do something to try and change the path that they're on. And it can be very, radical. While that's happening, the United States Navy, and I'm not talking about any other branch but the Navy, will appear to be weaker over the next 3 to 4 years. Let me explain how that's going to happen. We've known about this problem for a long time in shipbuilding with the U.S. Navy, that the period between 2024 and 2028 was going to be a period of transition where we moved on to the new frigates, the new submarines, and as we decommission the old ones, right? So we're having a reduction in ships as we decommission them, and we're building new ones. But we're not building them as fast as we had planned, and even if we were, there was still going to be this dip. So the number of ships in our Navy over the next 3 to 4 years is going to go down significantly. We're going to be in like the 270s total number of combat ships, and a lot of those are support ships, by the way. I'm talking about oilers and things like that, tenders. They're not all Arleigh Burkes. We're going to have a lot less ships. We're going to have a lot less VLS, which is one of the key metrics the United States uses to measure our projection of power. A VLS is simply a system that shoots missiles, right? Well, the fewer number of those systems that you have, the fewer missiles you can launch, thus the reduction of power. And to cap all that off, a problem that I don't think many of us saw coming, but is certainly here, and that's recruitment. We have not met our recruitment goals year over year for a while. And some of the goals that we have met have only been met because they changed the metric by which they measure those goals. They essentially adjusted the target so that we met a couple goals in certain areas, certain demographics. Okay, so those are being met, but overall, year over year, recruitment is just down across all branches. And that's a real problem. We have fewer ships, we have fewer weapons or VLS, and we also have fewer sailors coming into the Navy. Everything is going down, making us appear weaker. Now, I say appear because we're not weaker. emerging technologies like using or leveraging these unmanned vehicles with our manned ships is more than making up for that. That's a great ability that nobody really talks about because it's just beginning right now. I'm probably one of the few people that even talk about it. But we are going to appear to be weaker as China most definitely will be getting more desperate over the next 3 to 4 years. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about 2027 is a year you're going to want to remember, because if anything does happen, it's probably going to happen 2026, 2027. And so one thing that China could do to try and emerge from this path that's leading to economic collapse is try to gain assets. They might try to gain assets in the South China Sea. They're already claiming the South China Sea, like the Second Thomas Shoal, but they may actually go and try and get that oil for themselves. China imports something like 10 million barrels of oil a day. If they can pump that oil themselves, that saves them a lot of money. And they have plenty of people to do it, unemployed young people that could go and get that oil if they could just go do it. The second thing that they might do is, right off the coast of mainland China is a little place called Formosa. We call it Taiwan, and they have the greatest semiconductor production facilities in the world. They produce the best semiconductors at scale for the world in mass. And if China can somehow get that type of production line and monetize it for themselves, then they might be able to pull themselves out of this economic collapse that they're slowly going into. So that's what we could see happen. America looks weak. China is desperate. There's the answer right off their own shores. They may go for it. 2026, 2027. And that's going to be a nightmare. I see a lot of comparisons of the United States and China online, comparing us to Athens and Sparta, to great city-state nations in ancient Greece that led to the Peloponnesian Wars. Both city-states were growing, in power and in realm of influence that eventually touched and clashed. And for years, people were saying this needs to be resolved or else there's going to be conflict. And even though both sides saw that, in the end, there was conflict. There was a terrible Peloponnesian War. But I think that's a wrong comparison. I think a better comparison to what's happening with China and the United States is the United States is a world power currently. And, we're dominating pretty much economically, militarily. Despite our flaws, we're still the best thing going out there. So we're not in a collapsing state. If anything, we're in a growing state or a static state. I would argue we're growing. China very clearly, economically anyway, is in a collapsing state. And that's existential because of their demographics. Between their population, their unemployment, and their failing economy, there is no coming back from this. I don't see any way China gets out of this without taking drastic measures. And who else recently felt like that, folks? Think of World War II. In 1941, Germany needed resources to continue their war effort. They needed oil. And in order to get a quick victory and get some oil, they invaded Russia. They thought it would be quick and easy because they ran through Poland pretty quick. But what they didn't understand was just how, one, big Russia is, freaking huge, and they have a lot of freaking people. So that did not go too well with them, but that's the type of desperation lashing out Germany found itself in. We could see something like that, that type of effort coming out of China. Another example, if you want to flip the sides of Germany, in 1944, December 1944, there was a last-ditch push for victory to push the Americans to the peace table, to some sort of negotiation, and that was called the Battle of the Bulge. They took everything they had left, everything they could get together, Germany could, and just pushed it into the American lines over that Christmas. And it was a terrible fight. They had initial quick gains, and then the Americans just overwhelmed them. And that was all that Germany had left. From that fight, after that victory, the Americans were able to move in much faster than they were before. So that is what I expect China to actually do. I think there's going to be some sort of lashing out of desperation because there's so many things going wrong in China right now. They may feel they don't have any other choice. And that is scary when you think they also have nuclear weapons. Germany didn't have nuclear weapons. Athens didn't have nuclear weapons. China does.